Islam. I know I've spoken about many topics, but this one is extremely important, and you know why it's extremely important to me. Islam is like no other religion. In that it is first and foremost it's more like communism than it is a spirituality. It is the first and foremost goal is to establish the caliphate, right? That's why ISIS sprang up. The Islamic State of Iraq and Al-Shams, the Levant. That's why sometimes you hear it called ISIL. It's ISIS. It's Daesh. I remember in the 90s hearing about the Islamic State. Yeah, we need to get the Islamic State. Once we have the Islamic State, we'll be fine. And the uniting of all these countries. It wasn't until, I was, after I was, past 15 years old, or actually past 14 years old, as well as past 15 years old, when I was around 18, 19, that I saw the true horror of what was going to be inflicted, because it's right there in black and white on the pages of Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and it's as well as being in the Quran. The Quran, you could say, because it's just a jumble, You could say, well, I don't know, and what order does it go in, because you don't really know, and it didn't have the Muhammad Marmaduke Pickthall Quran, the one I have that's bright orange. It's kind of falling apart, that I've had since childhood. It doesn't label when, what is a Meccan surah and what is a Medinan surah. No, this is the greatest enemy. And when people talk about immigration, I think there's a stupidity there, because yes, there's economic migrants from the southern border or whatever, and yeah, okay, but the ones that will kill us, that will destroy the United States, are not coming through our southern border. They're coming over on airplanes, and they're coming from places like Pakistan and India. And yes, India, even though it is, known for Hinduism, it has more Muslims than Pakistan does. BTW, that's what a project looked like. It's not a project anymore. They come from Egypt, Libya, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, all over. And even what's the biggest terrorist army? If I were to ask you, most people would say ISIS. It's not. It's Boko Haram. They're the biggest advocate for the Islamic State, right? And there is no group that advocates for Islamic State through democracy, because democracy is haram. Not Hizb ut-Tahrir, not any group. And Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, the Islamic Front, and ISIS all want Islamic State. It's just when Islamic State wanted it right now. or maybe I should call it Daesh. But yeah. St. John Damascus, in no uncertain terms, called Islam Antichrist, and that Muhammad was the Antichrist, and this was an Antichrist religion. Saint Sophronius of Jerusalem, Patriarch of Jerusalem, in no uncertain terms, called Islam Antichrist or anti-Christian, and that it was barbarous and terrible. Again, I don't know if any Islamic apologist on the left has ever picked up a Quran, just as I don't think anybody who advocates for communism has ever read the Communist Manifesto. This was a comment just the other day. Communism would work if we had a more technologically advanced society. Really, the destruction of the family, the destruction of all cultures, of all of marriage, of mother and child relations, of all things that make any two cultures different. That's desirable. I went on. All eternal truths, all philosophies, all religion, total annihilation of all these things. Ludicrous. And Islam and St. Francis, or not St. Francis, God help me, Pope Francis the First has said some pretty wacky and stupid things about Islam, and has treated Muslims as if they are the victims, right? 1,400 years of conquest of Christendom, right? And people had even asked me, "Oh, your church, one of your cathedral," because I go to a church and I also go to a cathedral. Your cathedral is Palestinian, Syrian. Well, it must have been dangerous for them to convert to Christianity from Islam. Excuse me. And in the words of Josiah Trenum, Islam is the Johnny-come-lately. Syria and Egypt were 100% Christian. They were the jewels of Christianity, as was Palestine. These are Christian lands. They happen to be conquered by Muslims, but they are Christian. The tolerant Muslims are not the problem. It's not the Alevi or the Alawi or various versions of Ismailism, or even the Druze who actually work for the Israeli army. But it's not even the Shia, it's the Sunni, it's the Wahhabist, Salafist, that are the bad news. And it's not, I shouldn't, I want to say it's not the Sunni next door that's a moderate, but in a way it is. In a way it is in DuPage County alone, there are 3 giant mosques that on Fridays are filled with thousands of men Can we say the same thing about the Orthodox churches or even the Catholic churches? No. Islam is, read the Quran. It's like as if an Arab Viking wrote it. You know, even the peaceful verses, remember, they were abrogated by the violent verses. Just as the Old Testament was abrogated by the New Testament, the Median verses were abrogated by the Meccan verses. And one of the last verses was Surah Al-Tawbah, Surah 9. Just read what that has to say. Islam, like communism or fascism, there is not a single area of your life, a single activity in your life that is private, that Sharia law does not apply to. Yes, Sharia law is wearing hijab, but it's also stoning unbelievers and executing women for adultery and executing women for rape unless there were 4 male witnesses to testify on her behalf. So people like Ben Affleck and idiots who know nothing about religion or history should shut up. Again, they're stepping on my ground, and especially something extremely personally, because it was a great cost to leave. Notice in the videos where I make this, I don't show my face. Even a safe Western country like this, it still is not safe. Alright, peace to you.